Okay, we are live, 5/19/2024. Infinite Plane Radio, open phones for open minds, and we have a better phone system. So if you've been a critic of Skype, as I have been, we are now on Blog Talk Radio, a superior system which allows for a caller queue. So if you want to call in, you can stay on hold and listen on speakerphone until you're called in, until I unmute you. And the number they assigned me, which is entirely random, is on the screen right now, and this is the one that's going to stay. It's going to be this number from here on out. The number is 563-999-3664. So if you want to program that into your speed dial. Lesko says volume is low. You know, that has been a criticism as of late, the volume being low. Is anyone else experiencing low volume? Let's just go ahead and deal with that now, and I will click Advanced Audio Properties and see if there's anything I can do. Okay, I do see some settings here. I don't like doing tech support on the fly when we're live, however, I'll make an exception. And now I'm starting to hear a bunch of weird noises as far as USB cable. Hopefully, we're not just being invaded. So again, apparently, someone else says my volume's normal. I don't want to talk about volume tonight. But if it's that bad, then there's probably an issue. Maybe I need a new microphone. Maybe I need to talk louder. So I'm kind of winging it. I'm rummaging through my settings here on audio, and I'm pretty sure there's a way I can crank it up. Now, I don't know what that USB noise is. I'll try to fix that as well. Okay, phones are open. Dinah South says volume is the same. Let's have a debate. Let's debate my volume. Let's have a debate right now. Has it changed? Is it the same that it's always been? Is there anything I can do on my end to change it other than speaking louder? And if there is no way I can change it, I'll speak louder. Okay, everyone else says it's the same. So we will just do this. I'll talk louder, or I can try swapping mics. Let's go, can't hear. Smarty Pants says Mandela volume. Someone else says okay. Your headphones are low. Now, is it your headphones? Maybe we should troubleshoot your headphones. Perhaps your headphones need to be adjusted. That's another possibility. We'll get back onto the subjects at hand here shortly. I'm going to make another stab here at adjusting the audio. I know there's some kind of setting in here. Okay, here we go. Not really sure. Lean Dion says it's fine. Elephant Tusk says auto hoax volume alert. Yeah, look, I'm just going to leave it, and what I'll do is, if it's low, I'll crank it up in the archives. So if you subscribe at ips.monster, you get the archives, and when I process it, I can adjust the volume at that time. I'm working right now on a video right now, the ISS project. There's a couple of things I'm working on, the QAnon doc, and also the IPS Cyber Symposium, which is going to happen soon. Okay, a lot of people are suggesting the volume's fine. Ollie Goering says YouTube does it to people sometimes. Happened to me before. Yeah, it could be some kind of targeted individual harassment meant to gaslight you. Maybe I'm gaslighting you. Like maybe I'm actually lowering the volume and then I'm telling you everything's fine. And now you're questioning your own perceptions. That's how it works, right? You know, I've been gaslit by people in real life where they're telling you something that you know is not true, not just lying in a way that makes sense, like they're lying strategically, but more like they're lying about something in order to impose a misperception onto you, something that you wouldn't even think about questioning, but it messes with you in subtle ways. And the movie The Gaslight was it where this term comes from, had to do with a husband driving his wife crazy by constantly messing with the lights and telling her nothing was being changed. So it's kind of an old phrase, but I've experienced that before in a number of different ways, and I've seen people who do it. And it's not well, I don't know if it's a conscious and volitional malicious thing, but there is some element to it that's almost diabolical. The media does it, though. The media has perfected the art of gaslighting, where the default world stage is always going to be the one that they show you on the screen. You can't really augment it with your own perceptions. So, this overriding of your perceptions constitutes a form of gaslighting. Okay, Let's Go says, seems a bit better. I'm just going to talk louder a little bit for the time being, but I'll make sure that if it's something I can fix, I will fix it because there's always something I can do. I have come across audio solutions. Interestingly, Skype has become worse over time. Skype has become totally unusable, which is why we're on this new system. Dinah South says, I have been gaslit by a narcissistic a-hole. Yep, exactly. And yeah, I would say the mass media is actually a narcissistic a-hole. It's a it's a template thing. Like they constructed the persona and the personality of Big Brother to be this domineering control freak who imposes its view of reality over yours and demands all of your attention, all of your thought. And nothing that you think or say will ever matter because you're talking to a screen. It's one-way communication and it's from it to you. But the personality style that we would refer to as narcissistic or control freak is intrinsic into the mass media by design because media is our boss. It's the spokesmouth for power, even though it's spread out, different platforms. You might be playing a video game, you might be watching Netflix or reading a newspaper. These are all facets of Big Brother. But he's been divided into all these separate platforms, so it appears that the monolithic power that governs the billions of minds on this world is fragmented. No, it's not. I mean, the world war concept, oh, it's World War III. No, we already have the one world system. The world war is just in your mind, and that's this is very Orwellian, but war truly is peace. War is peace, freedom is slavery. His whole upside down world in 1984 is kind of how we're living today. I think that the benevolent dictatorship of the day works by perpetuating inner war in order to maintain outward peace. Now, let's go through. Someone had mentioned, oh, yes, the artwork there. Salty Siren pointed out, I love the pic with the Kraken dreadhead. Looks like me. Yeah, that's something inspired by JL26. It's Elvis with a skull face with tentacles coming out of his head, staring at the Space Needle, and the sky is filled with numbers. And let him who has wisdom decode this. This is a very enigmatic image. It's like it might be portentous. It might actually have some significant relevance in about 3 weeks, or it might not. I mean, the reason why I think it's great that we've had a chance to speak with Jurassic Liars is that we're basically weeks out from what could be the end game, what could be the next 9/11. And by his description of it, they're releasing the Kraken. This is the 9/11ing of the entire world. So it's not going to be local. And we were talking about Tesla and 369 earlier in our Gilded server, and someone had pointed out 311, 911. We're just waiting on, there's like a pattern here. All right, catching up on your comments. We have a few people trailing in. I know it's Sunday night. We didn't get through a lot of my notes yesterday, and I'm doing a lot of research. Someone pointed this out. There was this NASA experiment called Azure, which consisted of two rockets, and this was something to create glowing clouds. This is from 2019. NASA's mission to create glowing clouds, and this is being brought up in the context of the recent pink skies. So I'm going to go and play this clip, and this is something they created over Norway to study the aurora. This was in 2019. So you're looking at the sky over northern Norway. NASA's Azure mission successfully launched two sounding rockets back to back with the main goal of studying the zone where the aurora is created, the ionosphere. They waited for the perfect condition, no wind. Anyway, they artificially created this with these two consecutive rockets, creating these special effects in the ionosphere. Now, this is just interesting considering what we saw recently, and we have to expand our understanding of what is fakeable. And anything they can fake in the movies, they can fake on the news. But it's another element here. What can they fake in the meatverse? What can they fake in front of our eyes? Well, they can demolish a building and make it look like it was taken down by planes, melted by chemtrail juice, or whatever the story happens to be. They can have people falling on their faces, wandering around Wuhan, like some invisible ghost is kicking him on the back of the head. I think we used to call it the Kung Flu, because it's like, why are these people just face planting? That's not how the flu hits you. But that's how they presented it. And once people saw that, they accepted it was real. When the PSYOP includes something physical, physical props, it becomes much realer. And whatever they're doing with the sky is going to give the ultimate credibility to their fake psychological operations. For example, fallout or faking a nuclear blast, nuclear winter. Can they do it? Maybe Bill Gates does have a plan to use stratospheric injections to block the sun, and they'll say it's the result of fallout. I'm not sure what the plan is, but just noticing that they do have certain special effects we need to be aware of. All right, continuing. Catching up from yesterday's notes. A lot of Masonic buffoonery. Okay, here's one. 107 gets grilled for taking advantage of people thinking he's JFK Jr. Yeah, there's a lot of these JFK Jr. imposters, and they're doing it for one reason, and no one's really called it out. The reason why these individuals are all pretending to be JFK Jr., the groupies. They're getting JFK Jr.'s groupies. And if you look at the list of his, I guess, his body count, you got Ghislaine Maxwell, Princess Diana, and a whole list of others, but those are just two names that really stand out. Princess Diana. Some say that Baron Trump is the son of Princess Diana, and the father being, I believe they say it's, no one said JFK Jr., they've said it's JFK or Trump. Either way, this is all QAnon territory we're about to get into. I'm just pointing it out that there's all this fan fiction about who the father and mother is of Baron Trump, and it would be weird if they're going to say Baron Trump is the son of Princess Diana and the father's Trump and not JFK Jr. because they were friends. So it's kind of like, okay, he fake died, but still. Now, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but 107 gets grilled for taking advantage of people thinking he was JFK Jr. Now, anybody who fell for it deserved to fall for it. I mean, he did have a convincing ruse for a while. He would do these videos where
junk food for weight loss.
Excuse me.
This is BitChute.
You look great.
BitChute has the worst ads in the world, by the way. So he would do these videos where his boots were up on the table, and he'd be talking about, Q and prophecy and stuff, and people were like, "That's him. That's the son of JFK." And one day he knocked his phone over, and it did a 180, and now you saw his face and his beard and his bloated belly, and it just destroyed the illusion in a heartbeat. Like the mask dropped. There was no recovering from that unflattering angle. Burst the bubble. And they all do it on purpose. Negative 48 did it too. God, I can't read some of these comments, but I wish I could. Negative 48 would lead people on with his voice until somebody specifically asked him. And then you see him in person and you're like, well, maybe it's JFK in a costume and a rubber mask. And I'm sure some ladies fell for that, sadly. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is a 107 admits he's not JFK Jr. So he has to admit it. Look, if millions of people have some case of mistaken identity and they confuse you with some uh, dead president or some dead celebrity, some dead politician, I would imagine most of us would correct the record. No, I'm not that person. But these grifters all play into it. Interestingly, there's this Bob Joyce character, Pastor Bob Joyce. He's a pastor, which makes it even worse because he's lying about being Elvis. So you have this pastor who doesn't look like Elvis. He doesn't have any moves. Yeah, he can sing some Elvis songs, big deal. He's got his hair not even close, sorry. Not even close. Trump is more Elvis than Bob Joyce. Yet, Bob Joyce is now a speaker at George Magazine and their convention coming up in August. George Magazine is JFK Jr.'s magazine. So you got this mix of Q, Elvis impersonators, and JFK Jr. impersonators all on the stage at these weird Republican events. But let's go ahead and play this.
You're busy, so I'll just get to the questions.
Yeah.
All right. For years, you would not confirm or deny if you were JFK Jr. and you knew what you were doing and you made a lot of money. And because of it, I want to offer you a chance to.
He made a lot of money. Nobody's talking about the groupies. And I mean, fine, good on him. Let's say with negative 48, these guys had nothing going for them, it seemed, and now they become, rock stars by um, you know, tapping into this existing demographic. Even Vincent Fuchsia, ladies loved him, and I'm not knocking it, but I'm just appalled at how gullible people are. And it's not the money; it's about the status. Being a rock star, it's just amazing for these individuals. Like, and again, people are gullible. And one more point: a reason why I'm bringing this up is that at the end of this month, they're doing it again. There's some January 6er who already served like 180 days, and she's known for, I think she dresses like Uncle Sam or something. But anyway, this clown is hosting a JFK event at Dealey Plaza on JFK's birthday, and that's going to be at the end of this month. So just a heads up. But let me go ahead and play this clip. This is someone asking him for some accountability.
Apologize to the movement, President Trump, and JFK's family. What you did was very deceptive and not what a man of God does. Understand, I have with me whistleblower information, and it's absolutely devastating. Do you feel bad about what you did, and are you ready to sincerely apologize to the movement?
Well, I've never ever once ever said that I was JFK Jr. And
I didn't say that.
was also.
You see how tricky this is? He never said it, but they never, like, George Magazine never says, oh, JFK Jr. is behind this, but he leads you to believe it. He even does these videos where he's like, well, there is someone else behind the scenes, wink, wink. This is insane. But this is a government sponsored cult, which is one of the reasons why I'm studying it. But listen to this snake.
And I've also been said to be Admiral Rogers and 24 other groups or people. So having to apologize for something that I've never said or make a big deal about it, I've never gone there. In fact, I've always, just for the sake of people around me and the context that I do have, uh, tried to stay in the background, but then provide some insights as to what's going on. So to put it in terms like I've misstated something, in fact, Robert David Steele and I, hold on.
Such sophistry. Again, we're talking about someone who has for years, we're talking like 5 years, done this tour as JFK Jr., collected money, sales, crypto, whatever, made a lot of money, became a speaker at various events, all on the premise that his name 107, which is 107 or 107, like John saving. It's really silly. You have to decode these names like this. But he allowed people to think this, and think it people do. And between him and Vincent Fuchsia and Negative 48, Negative 48 has the best case for JFK Jr. in a mask. But where does this all come from? Someone asks. A lot of people don't understand it. It's some kind of psyop where there are these bot accounts with tens or 20,000, 30,000 subs, I mean, tens of thousands of subscribers. And all they do is they promote this fan fiction about the Kennedys coming back to save us from the deep state and how they're all the blood of Christ. But it's really contradicted by the reality of someone like RFK, or how none of the other Kennedys care about this Q stuff. But the cognitive dissonance is off the charts. This is what I mean when I say the media is engaged in full-time gaslighting of people. But I bring this up because we're closing in on the end of May, and at the end of this month, there is going to be a Q event, and there's going to at Dealey Plaza. There's going to be a group of these cultists. Now let's go a little deeper into the MAGA swamp and check this out. There's this group called blacksfortrump2020.com, and I have a video of them doing a Trump rap. And weirdly, there's this guy in the back who looks like Hitler, even age appropriate. Like if Hitler were alive today, it looks like this guy. There's, again, he's wearing a Blacks for Trump shirt. I have a few other images of him, and we have him on video. And the more I look at it, it looks like a rubber face. It's very incongruent. Here you have these rappers with 47 on their hats, with Donald Trump gold chains, and you got Hitler in the back. And even if it's not Hitler, why would Blacks for Trump allow a guy that looks conspicuously like Hitler photobomb their entire rap video? So let me go ahead and play this. This is, again,
Black MAGA, Black MAGA, Black MAGA, Black MAGA. Donald Trump, yeah, that's my president. Donald Trump, the first black president. Ever seen a black patriot? Yeah, we exist. The Democrats use my color just to stay rich. Indict my president, you might.
Okay, so you might have missed it if you blinked. At 17 seconds in, which, here we go, you'll see in the background, and he's moving, and he's definitely grooving to this. He's Black MAGA, but he's the only white guy there, and he looks conspicuously like Hitler. Someone explain this, please. By the way, the number on the screen is our new phone number. We have a new phone system, and the number is 563-999-3664. And this new phone system doesn't have a loud, obnoxious ringer. It puts callers on queue, and you can listen while you're on hold. This way we can have back-to-back callers. J. Diggs says RFK scratched his nose. Yeah, someone asked if his nephew was alive or something. He scratched his nose. I mean, he needs to be held to account for this. But it's really an uninteresting and unappealing conspiracy. When I first heard about it, I just thought it was very unappealing. Now, weirdly, the origin of it, it's like, where does this story come from? It's not new. Like the idea of the Kennedys having, a secret island running the world from behind the scenes, it's not exactly new. But the version that I found, like the clearest version that talked about JFK Jr., or at least this like new Jesus lineage, weirdly enough comes from a Marilyn Manson song and video, which weirdly enough had some predictive programming value in it. So this came out in 1999 called Coma White. And Coma White recreates the assassination of JFK with Marilyn Manson as JFK and Rose McGowan as Jacqueline Kennedy, which has some very specific significance, the name Rose, which I don't want to get into specifically with that yet. However, the main part of it is this. It's based on a script for a movie that was never produced called Hollywood, or Holywood. And in this video, you have JFK dying. JFK's face is shown on a cross, like basically on a photograph on a cross. But what's more, right before the video was released, it had to be delayed because JFK Jr. crashed and died. But now, here's what it's about, and this is where it gets tied into this whole Q narrative or this JFK thing. The premiere is delayed due to the death of John F. Kennedy Jr. Manson issued a statement about the video in order to, here it is, he said, I was enacting the journey of death. The little did I know the tragedy at Columbine or the death of JFK Jr. would follow, but it's telling to see the media gorge itself on these events. Now, the video is basically about this. It's about how JFK was the second coming, and he dies. So now they're waiting for the third Jesus, who's going to be called President White. So that's the story. The story is about JFK Jr. It's about the third Jesus, about this basically this attempted second coming, and it gets ruined. But again, it's called Coma White. Very strange concept overall. But here's what he actually said about it. The idea is that there were two previous Christs. There was Jesus and there was JFK. The idea on Hollywood is that now they're waiting for the third and final savior. And it's going to be President White. They describe it as the most beautiful and disturbing video that they have ever done. So President White. So there's a theme here though. And this came out in 1999. And again, they delayed the release of the video because of JFK Jr.'s death. How does that even make sense? Unless you're correlating and connecting this stuff. All right, let's catch up on comments. Joined by Osher, Skyfish, Elephant Tusks, says they should be worshiping Eisenhower, the creator of the Real Intelligence Agency, NRO. Yeah, it's weird anyway. It's weird. This whole thing is so strange. I remember back when Obama was president and the commentary from the likes of Ann Coulter would say the left worships their leaders. It's like a religion to them. They worship government. And it just seems like that has just now infected the right. And now it's just state-olatry on both sides. Joined by IFEPA73, Lean Dion says, so comfortable with the life full of lies. Oh yes, you're talking about 107. Ted Stryker says, sorry I'm late. Yeah, look, if you're late, you can always get the archives. Go to ips.monster. Okay, I think we're catching up. Wormy says, nice, all Freemason numbers, LOL. Hey, I didn't pick those numbers. Blog Talk Radio just assigned me this number. Now, which of these numbers are Masonic anyway? I mean, which number isn't? Actually, tell me, which number is not Masonic? Is 2 Masonic? Is 7? Like, which one isn't? It's just too easy to say that every number is somehow a sign or every hand sign. Like, people really go deep onto analyzing people's numbers and hand signs to spot shills like it's a witch hunt. It's just silly. If I was a shill, whose agenda or what agenda am I serving? Because this think tank is truly the only one that goes against the contrived counterculture. We go against the opposition to the lying media because it's all controlled, contaminated. It's actually worse off than Normieland these days. Dewis and Paris says even the parentheses are Masonic. Well, look, the truth of it is, if you are up to speed with what the IPS has been on about since 2017, you have all the insights of those who exist at the capstone level of the lie world orders pyramid. Like, we're truly insiders. You could say that we know the secrets of the 33rd degree. In fact, we know more, I think, than many of those who are part of these programs. Just sort of like those who question the dominant paradigm tend to know more about the nuances of space than the people who just kind of half-ass believe it by default. We've looked into these things. And that's been the theme here anyway. I have a tabloid that we're going to be producing called The Inciter. And The Inciter is a reference to mostly, I guess, Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, and his expression of go forth and set the world on fire. The idea of spreading the skepticism of media deconstruction, spreading auto-hoaxing, is setting the world stage on fire. But the word insider sounds like insider. And insiders are what we are to the machinations of mass mind control, how it actually works. We are the ones who properly figured out and defined what predictive programming is and what its purpose is, because this stuff has been mystified and obfuscated by gatekeepers for decades. Let's see what else we have here. I'm catching up on your comments. Thank you, Jurassic Liars. There's no such thing as a bad number. There's just use certain number combinations for their numerical, magical rituals. Yes. Look, there's calling cards, and they joke about it, they talk about it. It's hardly even a secret anymore. And in my opinion, they have been manipulating their reportage because of us. We're like, pop quiz time. How many rounds did Frank James fire into the only subway cart that doesn't have CCTV? And everyone's like 33. How old was the guy that did this? And it's like 33. It's just consistent. How many millions of dollars of settlement did the CEO from Boeing just get? Like, we have spotted all of their hoax codes. But look, I'm not a shill. I can tell you I'm not a shill because we're so far against the grain that we're actually doing damage. You see, the controlled opposition carries water. I call them propaganda mules. If you're carrying the truth or propaganda, you're most likely carrying toxic mind viruses meant to infect and harm you. Psychosomatics happen. The nocebo effect is real. Stress has deleterious effects on your mind and body. All of these things are part of a non-stop mind war. It's basically a kind of like a suppressive presence in all of our lives. So I'm just like, no thanks. I don't need any of your fear pills. I don't need any superstition. I don't need any paranoia. And it's easy to become paranoid, especially if you buy into the premise or you just pay attention. You're like, well, they're evil enough to do this. Why wouldn't they do that? Well, that's not a good argument. It's not a good reason to accept an unnecessary level of paranoia. And one of my points here is that the operating system or the operating ethos of the power elite seems to be very Machiavellian. And so you can look at their strategy. Like, for example, the fear of the thing is worse than the thing itself. This is one of their, I guess it would be rules for radicals, rules number 9. The fear of the thing, the the idea that they can scare you with the threat of it. Well, the threat of it is more useful to them than the thing itself, because as long as you're threatened, you're cowering, you're kneeling, you're ducking and covering, and they want you to be perpetually ducking and covering, which is something I don't do. But look, in my view, also, we have to be aware that YouTube is full of shills. And one more point that might suggest that maybe I'm not a shill is I am involved in a lawsuit against YouTube, Google, for their negligence, which resulted in me losing copyrights over my own content for years. I have evidence to support it. I have a confession from the culprit who colluded with YouTube's legal department, and the amended complaint, the new and improved amendment complaint, I had to add on to it to really insist that, yeah, I'm asserting Google is negligent and therefore responsible. That is in a superior court in California, San Mateo County, and I'm expecting a pretty quick resolution. So if I was a shill, I wouldn't have to sue my way onto their platform. I wouldn't be 6 years into a podcast still struggling to break 1,000 subs. And I'm not complaining. You know, we were a target of a concerted campaign designed to eliminate exactly what we're doing. And what we're doing is we are amassing a growing group of individuals who have figured out that just as politics is controlled left and right, media is controlled mainstream and alt. And you have to go outside of the alt. And there's no platform for it. There's no representative voice or person who speaks for it. It doesn't exist. It's been excluded because they don't want it to exist. You're not supposed to. They don't want us to have a large number of people who have figured out how fakeable things are. Because what we're doing is we are taking insider secrets and we're breaking out of their paradigm, which is based on this incessant incessant rush to believe, like this obligation to believe the news as fast as they pump it out. And we're like, we're non believers. We're suspending judgment. We don't trust the liars at their word. We don't take their screen as an argument from authority. And unlike those who have fallen for the mainstream trutherville kind of traps, we're not lined up behind mainstream approved punching bags, mainstream media approved conspiracy theories. We've gone out of their realm of expertise. And what we represent is far more disruptive and way worse for them than the flat earth or the questioning of NASA, that stuff. Even though you're questioning the scientists and they were miffed about it and they broke YouTube to contain it, what we're doing right now is way worse. Like we are awakening a crack in here. And it's not that we're going to convert or wake up normies to the idea that they're spellbound and mind controlled. No, we're just networking with all of those who've already figured it out. And the number is far greater than I think any of us would suspect, but you wouldn't know because, again, there's never been a platform for it. The default has always been Trutherville. Elephant Tusk says, when you understand the bigger picture of what is really going on here, you will know why Space Force called Guardians. Oh yeah, they're called Guardians. And Apple named their AI assistant Siri. Lean Dion says Siri/Iris. Yes, and it is. It's the all-seeing eye. And it has a lot of significance when you consider that in conjunction to the black screen, the monolith. Think back to 2001: A Space Odyssey by Metascriptor Stanley Kubrick, the black monolith, and HAL 9000, the lens, the eye. That's these are two components. We're talking about the monolithic worldview as interpreted through the singular viewfinder up on the top of this pyramid. Like we are given a worldview from a worldview monopolist. This is the new monotheism, and it's being exercised through mass media to a population who have been educated to be receptacles for the propaganda, to be unquestioning conformists when it comes to whatever's on the screen. They just march lockstep. And there's no doubt about this. We watched 2020 happen, and you saw what happened with Trutherville. They lined up behind controlled opposition. They become anti to the pro. So one of the point here, you cannot accuse us of being controlled opposition. You can say we're uncontrolled because you have the pro position, which is mainstream, and the anti. But what about those who are anti-pro and anti-anti? Because that's where I'm at right now. I am anti-anti. If you're a knee-jerk reactionary and you're just opposed to whatever the liars are saying, and you call yourself therefore a truther, we don't have anything in common. There's far more discernment in what we are doing here. And Newful says, do you think they will simulate a terror attack in the water supply of Seattle, like adding uranium to correlate with the nuke without doing any explosions? Easy. That's actually really good. They could easily fake it anyway. They could fake a few tests. What difference does it make? But you're thinking about this properly, because when you've wargamed it, when you've thought about what they can do and all the different techniques, then when it happens, you're not mystified. You're not at a loss for words and falling into the habit of thinking, well, maybe it's real this time. And I've really broken from that habit entirely. You have to look at it this way, because there are some people who will say, well, if I can prove it's fake, but otherwise it's real. No, that's wrong. I'm like, well, I can see how they faked the planes, but the jumpers were real. No, that's wrong. Just because you can't figure out how they did the trick doesn't mean you have to default to it being real. If any part of it's fake, the whole thing is a production. You go to a magic show. You don't know how he chopped her in half. Does it mean magic? No. It means you don't know because you are sitting in your seat and the illusion was crafted to fool you from your perspective. And as long as your only perspective is sitting in front of the TV, you wouldn't have a frame of reference to debunk what they're telling you. And what we're doing here is we're getting out of our seats. We're looking backstage. We're looking at the magician's playbook, his tricks, and how they operate. And that's what we've been doing this entire time. So we're not mystified or bewildered or shocked by anything we see. I mean, I saw rows of dead babies like sardines on a sidewalk, and a lot of people turn away. Oh, it's terrible. They cry. They donate. And I'm like, um, their mouths are closed and their eyes are closed. And having worked in the restorative arts as an embalmer, I know for a fact that when you die, your eyes and your mouth are open until they're manually closed, and that requires sewing, super glue, or plastic inserts under the eyelids, and it happens after the embalming process. So I immediately pointed those things out as dolls. It's like I don't react to these things like, oh, it might be real. I'm like, how did they fake that? I mean, we're truly media critics, but on a whole other level. Elephant Tusk says, this outside reality is a game. It's not as real as you believe. You control it with the perceptions of your mind. See, I disagree. I think it's objectively real from the perspective of our bodies, and it's meant to be, and it doesn't get any realer than this. But the mental construct of the world, which is your experience of it, your perception of it, and all of your accrued wisdom and your preconceptions, your superstitions, your augmentations, you have this model that is the territory and then some. But the thing is, the model they give you is augmented in their way, and it actually contradicts your perceptions. So we're dealing with a false model of the world, but the world is real. And what I'm trying to do is align our concept of the world with what we experience. Cognitive harmony, as opposed to the default cognitive dissonance, which defines Normiville. And to a greater extent, truthers and wokers. The truthers and wokers are deeper in the matrix. So I disagree with Elephant Tusks. The outside reality, yeah, I agree it's a game, but it's as real as it gets. And making this distinction between real and simulation only makes sense from an objective perspective when we're talking about world view. And that matters. And even if you are right, if this is all sim, if we live in a magical universe, some kind of realm, if that's true, then the material is a substrate of mind. And so it still makes sense to go about this the way that we're going about it. Nick Fingar says, Tim, I don't think you're a shill, but I can see why some might say that. You're the guy who's about to take Q to court, and the rest of the world doesn't know who's behind the curtain. And of course, it would have to seem like a grassroots movement. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is kind of questionable. But when the story gets out, and this is why I'm doing the documentary, you'll see that the person who later became Q was targeting me and Mad Mike Hughes. There was a campaign against the both of us. It involved cyber stalking, it involved cyber squatting, smear campaign, copyright abuse. In fact, Mad Mike had gone viral on Tosh.0, and that's the kind of guy he was. You know, he was invited to Tosh.0, he hangs out, they talk, and his video goes very viral. And it was actually kind of funny. But the point of it was, after it was trending on YouTube for a few days, MGTV at the time, that's who he was back then, he had the video pulled maliciously. He was always trying to destroy all of our work. So no, we had nothing but opposition, and I can prove it. And one other point. The only reason we doxed him is because we were committed to preserving our channel in the face of these copyright abuses, and there was like 30 of us, and we formed a little group in Discord. We called it the DIA, the Decentralized Intelligence Agency, and we were able to figure out who this person was through a lot of phishing and a lot of scouring the web. And one thing I learned from that experience is that you're not anonymous. And even if you are anonymous, even if you're encrypted and you're hiding in a bunker, you're probably going to be given away by like your mother or your sister or something, someone in your family. And going back, the breadcrumbs people leave are just amazing. Like, and look, one more point. He started it, and I know that's childish, but I didn't know who he was. I kind of had seen some of his crappy videos, but he had tried to hack into my email account, and I saw him bragging about it on a certain chat room, and he mentioned what my backup email was. And when I saw that he was trying to hack me, I immediately contacted him and I told him to back off. And after I told him to back off, he said he would, and then this onslaught of stalkery stuff started happening. So he definitely started it. And I don't believe he's meant to be revealed because he's some kind of an operative and he's very well connected. And one other point, he's not the only one. We had other stalkers. We had one that was look, the top Redditor, the editors on Reddit, the top Redditor for the conspiracy subreddits. This guy was a gatekeeper. He would not allow auto hoaxing. He was really like killing flat Earth. This gatekeeper was another one of our stalkers until we figured out that he was working at some IT company in Texas, and we managed to get him, I think, relocated or possibly fired, but I sued him. And there are many others as well. I don't want to get too far into it, but we have a record of doxing people, doxing anons, and it's easy. It's easy if you have enough people involved. I have a course, a counter stalking course that describes some of the tactics, but we have a pretty good record on it. And so when the story gets out, how Q is doxed, you'll see, no, we're definitely uncontrolled opposition here. My objective here again is to win so we can publicly put YouTube/Google in their place with regard to their hypocrisy regarding not just the free information of ideas and freedom of speech and all that, but also just the organic human culture, these interactions that are so new to us as a species. Now we are suddenly we're integrated globally. Everybody's sharing content with everybody. All of our weirdest ideas are being platformed. Anything's really possible in this environment. To me, it's mind expanding. It's almost psychedelic. And then they shut it down. And they delete billions of comments and they brag about it. If you were to take all of the videos that they deleted and put them on a disk and then put them in a building, it'd be a tower many, many stories tall that they just burn. They're burning all these books. And what are future anthropologists going to say? The richest people in the world destroyed so much content that gave us like really a unique insight into a time when we're waking up to this global quote brain, and it's a travesty. And if I can just point out or at least demonstrate how they managed to allow this to happen, we'll see how extensive the damage is, because we're certainly not the only target. Okay, let's see what else here. Yeah, we have a better phone system. I think the audio will be better as well, by the way. And if you want to call in, phones are open. The number is 563-999-3664. And I didn't choose the number, it was chosen for me. Okay, let's move on. We were talking about this strange Marilyn Manson video, Coma White predicting JFK Jr. as some kind of savior president. We're watching a video with 107 admitting he's not JFK Jr. finally, and he's being called out. This is a 40-minute video. I can't play it all. I'm going to play a few more seconds. It looks like he's being grilled over this. 40 minutes.
You're not the first one that has raised that, and in fact, we're dealing with it behind the scenes as it is right now. So I would say probably a half a dozen people that I've dealt with that are other broadcasters. We had the conversation, and they agreed with where we were at on it and why. And but that you want to bring it up, that's fine. I'm listening, and I didn't go anywhere.
Okay, so you're telling me, and I want to make it clear because I'm not accusing you. This is whistleblower content that.
Well, it's whistleblower. It's somebody's version. It's one side.
Okay, it's one side.
Whistleblower is verified.
Anyway, this guy's equivocating. The fact is, he pretended to be JFK Jr. He got caught, and the grift is up, and people are trying to expel him from the movement, which is far from over. Again, we have an upcoming event for the end of the month. JFK's birthday is going to be celebrated at Dealey Plaza, and it's going to be led by some January 6er. Okay, now this is a strange thing that happened. Donald Trump's, I guess his teleprompters went blank. So this is a couple of things that have happened. But let me play this. His teleprompters glitched or something, but for some reason, he has like 33 seconds of silence here. And this is at the National Rifle Association speech, their annual meeting.
So this is going to be, again, the most important election in the history of our country. I used to say it on 2016, but that was peanuts by comparison. I ran on the border in 2016, but that border was like fantastic compared to the border we have now. I solved the border problem, so much so that I couldn't use it in the 2020 speeches. I kept saying to my people, can I talk about the border, please? They said, sir, you've solved the problem. Nobody wants to hear about it. I said, that's not...
Now, here he is talking, and it's about to go dark for a moment. And one more thing. The other day, his podium nearly fell to the left, and he commented on how things are falling apart, we're leaning too far left, kind of a joke. But when he was leaning over, and this is pointed out by Synchro Morpheus, the red on the flag behind him, the way it was aligned with his head, looked like a headshot. I mean, very, I guess, coincidental, or not so coincidental, depending on how you look at it. But here we go. This is the part where he's speaking, and then suddenly...
But now...
Anyway, his hypnotic music is very sad, and it's hypnotic. I've seen it. The people in there are just in a trance. And yeah, he did say something strange earlier in this thing. Probably just a Freudian slip. Okay, now what does that mean? 33-second blackout? Not sure, but the fact is he's posing in a couple of crossed rifles. Not hard to extrapolate some meaning from that. Quote, glitched out. I wanted to bring this up, and this just kind of builds off a conversation I had yesterday with Jurassic Liars. I was talking about, or we were talking about the Kraken and the Space Needle in Seattle. Well, interestingly, Dr. Evil, this is from Austin Powers, Dr. Evil's headquarters, Seattle, and it's the Space Needle. And Dr. Evil's with an S can give you Dr. Elvis. So Dr. Elvis's headquarters. Now, why is this significant? Dr. Evil in the Space Needle, I believe, represents Nimrod, the builder of the Tower of Babel. I think that's part of it. You have the Jeff Bezos, who looks just like Dr. Evil, and they both have dong rockets. It's an intentional resemblance. Dr. Evil's resemblance to Anton LaVey from the Church of Satan is intentional, in my opinion. So you have that as well, and I mentioned Anton LaVey is Leviathan, the Kraken. Anton LaVey, Anton. It's an anagram if you look at the Hebrew characters around their pentagram star, and they're on the west coast, and they worship in the direction of the west when they pray to Leviathan. So there's a connection here, and it goes deeper. There's actually this episode in this Netflix show called, it has Alex Jones in it, but it's called Inside Job. And on Inside Job, Season 1, Episode 6, Jeff Bezos gets eaten by a kraken while on his mega yacht. I've talked about Bezos and the Nimrod connections before, but one of the connections here is that the Space Needle and the One World Trade Tower are the same symbol, and they represent the Tower of Babel. The ISS, same symbol. Even the Titanic. These things all represent this unity of man, man's hubris, too big to fail. It's all building to the same crescendo, challenging God, contradicting God's plan, and that's kind of the Nimrod connection here. A couple of the things, let me just briefly. America's founded 1776 AD, and the pyramid on the back of the bill with the one eye, the mono eye, has 1776 in Roman numerals at the bottom. The One World Trade Tower is 1,776 feet high. Now, the Tower of Babel's construction began, according to Masonic lore, in 1776 AL. So the year of light, they have a different calendar. They add 4,000 years. So in other words, 1776 is code for the building of America and the building of the Tower of Babel. And one more connection. The height of the Great Pyramid in Giza, which would correlate to the dollar bill, is 5,776 inches, which is the year it was AD in 1776 when America was founded. So you do this multi-layer connection that confirms America as Babylon, the one world trade tower, a symbol of its tower, and the Space Needle, an analogous symbol. Yeah, if anyone wants to call in, phones are open. We are pretty much having conversations about anything right now. A Joe Rogan guest questioning the atomic bomb footage. Oh, this is No, who is this?
You've seen all the grainy footage of nuclear test blasts that
Sure.
with the mushroom clouds, and there are always these grainy things, and there's all these like little houses lined up and these little trees lined up, and it blows everything down. Yeah. Okay. So here's the question, right? So what happened? Okay. So this is great. Okay, you'll love this. So what happened to the camera?
You son of a bitch.
How is that happening?
So Joe never questioned this before, and this kind of sheds another light on another meaning here behind Barbieheimer. Like they're just blowing up Barbie houses. My first MOS in the military was 54 Bravo, which is all about nuclear, biological, chemical, and I was watching all of these videos in a training environment, and I was of course convinced that this was all real. Totally brainwashed, and I had no idea. Like I was trained to believe this was real. Everybody in the military is trained to believe this is real. One of the main things that I think the military is there for is to ensure that you have this literal army of believers in all of the state myths that are used to maintain its stranglehold on power, like its myth of the ultimate power to destroy. Yeah, but they have a lot of people there who believe it and live as though it's an immediate threat. But look at this individual getting Joe Rogan to question it for the first time. What happened to the cameras?
You son of a bitch.
How is that happening yet the camera is like totally stable and fine?
Oh my god.
And by the way, and the film is fine. The radiation didn't cause any damage to the film.
Oh my god.
By the way, okay, we'll do this one. We'll do the loop one more time here. Let's see the car.
The car's right behind the house. It just showed up.
Oh,
okay.
It just showed up.
So wait a minute. First of all,
it wasn't there.
First of all, where'd the car come from?
Yeah.
No car.
The second is really.
Now they got Joe Rogan auto-hoaxing the atom bomb. This is progress, maybe inadvertent, but this is exactly the kind of content that we would be doing, that we pretty much do. And if we were to do this on YouTube, they would probably mark it as misinformation. So that was Mark Andresen. Thank you, J Diggs. Elephant Tusk says, I believe nuclear weapons are real. I just think they're not allowed to use them via outside forces. You can believe what you want to believe. We're all entitled to our own opinions, but the facts are the facts, and there's no factual basis for the nukes. It's just simulation. Elephant Tusk says, these were the weapons used on us during Sodom and Gomorrah. I wasn't there. Like, us? And no, I don't think so. I think that these are stories. These are myths. They want you to believe that the powers that be can turn you all into pillars of salt or flood you off the face of the earth if you don't pay taxes. Let's play some more of this.
Look like
car.
Does that look like a real car?
That's insane.
So the car wasn't there, then it was there. Continuity error. This is definitely faked footage.
Is that a house or is that like is that a 12-inch scale model?
What?
Right.
Oh, that does look fake.
There's also the camera didn't move at all either.
You know what it looks like? It looks like the smoke is too big. Watch when it hits. Like the volume, like the size of it. It looks small.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? I mean, it looks like we're looking at something that's like a few inches.
Yeah.
Okay, what he's pointing out, what Joe Rogan is pointing out, the auto hoaxer, Joe Rogan, is pointing out that the scale of the smoke with respect to the exploding houses is wildly disproportionate for these to be real homes. Like this is definitely scale models.
tall.
If you watch like making of Star Wars, any of the any movies before CGI, whenever they do anything like that, it's always with these tiny models.
Yes. Yeah, this looks fake as shit.
Let's get another one. It's like, okay, what the camera's fine.
Joe Rogan just said this looks fake as shit. Looking at this stuff, like this is one of the gods. One of the gods of the modern era is the nuke. It's this new war god that you're supposed to tremble before and placate and believe in. And here he is saying he doesn't believe in it. Like, this is bad. This is worse. This is worse than saying the moon landings were fake in terms of the damage it could do to the status quo. No nukes, no basis for consistent dread about World War III. You just defanged the biggest villains in the world. North Korea can't do anything. You see what I mean? This is a problem. Like Joe's going to have to go. They can't let this go on. By the way, phones are open for the next 45 minutes. The number is, if you want to call in, 563-999-3664. So Joe Rogan auto-hoaxing. This is still unbelievable. Let's play a few more seconds of it. And yeah, they're blowing up Barbie houses.
Fake.
There's also the camera didn't move at all either.
You know what it looks like? It looks like the smoke is too big. Watch when it hits.
Yeah, so he's figuring this out.
Where's fine?
They're laughing when they should be shrieking. They should be ducking and covering. They should be wringing their hands, worried about future generations. But no, here they are, laughing. Now listen to this. Commenter, Jesus88 says, please tell me this is just people talking crap. I'll reject not landing on the moon, but if the atom bomb is fake, I'm not ready for it. You're not ready for the good news. You're not ready for the possibility that you're not about to die at any random moment because some country has some beef with us and they want to push a button. This is the strangest reaction. Like, hey, by the way, 33 kids didn't get their heads chopped off yesterday, and they're like, how dare you? My fake dead kids. It's like, look, you're mourning for these kids who didn't die. I'm telling you they didn't die, and you should be thanking me, and you should be happy that the kids aren't dead. But no, they're mad at you because they're clinging to the version where these people died, and now their grief matters or something. I call them death clingers. Or the ones who get appalled when you tell them nobody died. Corpse clutchers, like clutching pearls. Like, they just got to let go of this bad news. And here's someone, we're giving him the best news in the world, and he's like, I'm not ready for it. And I've seen this firsthand. I've seen the terrorism. Like, I had a friend who had, her husband was like having them do drills, hiding under the stairs, scaring them about nukes. Like, they were pretty scared. It's just like that movie, The Village, when the parents have the children hiding in the basements because the monsters are running loose. Same thing. And it's childish to be frightened by superstitions. So they lied about everything. Let me play this clip by Rick Mayall. Good advice, but too little too late.
For your television sets, now. You must listen to no orders. That's all I can tell you for this point of humanity.
Yeah, this is Rick Mayall warning you, turn off your television sets.
I may be dead by the time you watch this. Very possibly are. You don't know who's the man who's making things he wants you to see. Destroy your television sets, now. You must listen to no orders. That's all I can tell you for this point of humanity.
Alright, let's get some more comments here. They used the same camera they used for the shot of the astronauts leaving the moon. The footage was processed at Laurel Canyon. I've heard that before. You have the literary club, the Manana Club. You have this intersection of individuals like Jack Parsons. You have all these counterculture names that pop up. L. Ron Hubbard, a lot of science fiction writers, Arthur C. Clarke. We'll have to go back and look at some of the names who cross paths here because this is also likely the area where a lot of this stuff was faked. Okay, let's see what else we have here. I do think this is true over, yeah, this person here is, some people believe it's real. I'm just scrolling through the comments. What else is fake 17 minutes ago? Okay, this is interesting. All of a sudden, a lot of people are asking what else is fake. Good question to be asking. Did Joe Rogan eat a pot brownie? Okay. Leaves a lot of things to question. Again, this is more damaging than denying the moon landing. What happened to the camera? Major E. Lint says it's in a bunker viewing through a periscope. Okay, and I bet the periscope's made out of the same stuff that the 9/11 passports are made out of. They just make body armor out of this stuff. TVOACM says, were Hiroshima and Nagasaki ever nuked? Both areas would be uninhabited if they had been. Here's the thing about Chernobyl, not a bomb but an accidental explosion. These two incidents do not add up. Looks like we got some critical thinking happening here. Anonymous says, we had watched similar videos in my history class and I asked the same question and my teacher said, that's just the way it is. Going on. Wells says, the fact Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened makes this somewhat irrelevant. Now, this is a person who's not apprised of just how fakeable things are. You can blow up a scale model. Like, again, it's not a oversimplification to say that if they can fake it in the movies, they can fake it in the news. And if it's in the news, people will believe it. Gorilla B says, was the atomic bomb a psyop? Yeah, I think we entered the Truman Show. It happened during the Truman administration, and that's when humanity was collectively pulled into a alternate reality game. We merged with the movie. That had to be the moment. It happened at the Trinity site, and I'll have to look into the subtext of the entire event. But in fact, recently I went to the Atomic Museum here, where they actually have a scale model of the bombs that were dropped. They have the gadget, the Oppenheimer's gadget with the tower. So I've been looking into this thing. But anyway, this is just an example of how they use a psyop to unify the entire world against a singular threat. And I think this is when we were dragged onto the movie stage. No opt out. Bigger than this, is like a pandemic. But this is now a threat that everybody agrees on because they saw it on TV. It's totally fakeable. And it is a new god. It's a god construct. There's a few of them. It's one god you're supposed to believe in, and Joe Rogan's questioning it now. Gaia, you're supposed to believe in Gaia, and specifically Gaia's wrath. If you're not Gaia fearing, you're not believing the science. And then you have COVID, which is a devil the atheists will believe in. But these are all god constructs. And they're just replacements. These are replacement myths, replacement deities. Violet says, why are they talking about nukes being fake? Seems like they wouldn't want that. Is it to make it look crazy to think it's fake? Ooh, interesting. Could they be diffusing, auto-hoaxing the nuke in advance of Christopher Nolan's masterpiece rolling out? When they Oppenheimer the S out of Seattle, they don't want anybody questioning it. So they got to get in front of it, and Rogan's the guy to do it. He's diffusing the auto-hoax bomb in advance. And calling it fake might even be another thing too, how they polarize it. You know how like the right didn't believe in the V? Now the right's not going to believe in Fallout. And again, Fallout, Jonathan Nolan, another one of the Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan, Fallout, Jonathan Nolan. This is the script. We're reading the script properly. So I'm with Violet Pengon here. It seems like they're probably trying to diffuse any kind of skepticism to the incoming mushroom cloud psyop. William Bonney says 23 nukes were dropped at Bikini Atoll, we're told. On the same island, they let people move back 12 years later. You know, when I was offered, I was going to re-enlist, and I was offered to go out to Johnston Atoll, and I'm glad I didn't. I would have been on a small island, totally brainwashed. I would never have come back from it. But this is all really interesting when you get into the Oppenheimer and the timing of the Barbie movie and how the bomb was really just blowing up Barbie doll houses. But moreover, that the bomb and Barbie have some other connotations, and the reason they put them out at the same time. Splitting of the atom, the nuclear age. This is all, I think, consistent with us being dragged into the movie world, but also you have the splitting of the nuclear family with Barbie feminism being promoted at the same time. So there's in the theaters, these same themes are put out there and they're put together. And I don't think it's a coincidence. Of course, it's all part of, I think, the programming us for this new age goddess, Babylon. That's the Barbie thing. But the beast has been represented as the nuke and as Godzilla. And interestingly, Godzilla is specifically a metaphor for the nuke. A couple other things, Bikini Island. This is where bombshell, the idea of a bikini and a bombshell, this to describe a woman in a bikini, it all comes from this. So this is another iteration here of the goddess being introduced in conjunction with the bomb. It's just an old theme, but I was at that atomic museum and I had seen this mural and it was just nukes and all these pinup models. I'm like, what is going on here? There's something going on. This is where it's at. It says the mental health system is going to demonize auto hoaxers. Well, it'll demonize auto disbelievers. Like if you say gorillas are fake because I've never seen one up close or I don't believe in pandas, yeah, you're pretty much veering into this area where they could say you have these persistent delusions that you're accepting as real. But the line between someone who is mentally ill and who isn't is if you're exposed to evidence, can you change your mind? But that does look crazy. What we're doing is different. There's a huge difference between low information non-belief and informed non-belief. And we are informed non-believers. I know why I don't believe the things I don't believe. I prefer to know. We're in the information age. If I can't know something, I'm just going to have a question mark. I'm not going to just say, oh, I believe it. That's how this whole thing works. The world stage does stage magic, and they want you to believe in their magic tricks as they present them to you, as they fool you into misperceiving them. But the approach we're taking is a reiteration. It's like a new version, updated version of the original form of skepticism as introduced by Pyrrho. So we are pyromaniacs on the world stage. And it merely means this. We suspend judgment. A liar says something. I'm like, well, I don't know if I believe you. Let me wait a few days and get a few more perspectives, and then I'll decide if it's something that I should take seriously. And if the liar isn't able to make the case, then you can just dismiss it. And the difference between the person who rejects lies and the person who believes them is the person who believes them is necessarily going to have a lot of augmentations to their reality that may not serve their best interests. Paranoia, fear, bigotries, hatreds, all kinds of things. And then you have to deal with the psychosomatic effects, the nocebo effects, the social effects of having beliefs that alienate people that you used to identify with. So I'm just pointing out here that by rejecting the impulse or the obligation that we're all like under to automatically believe, by suspending judgment, we're just in a way dodging a lot of bullets. So we're skeptics, which is reasonable. We have a principled rejection of BS. That's far different from just saying I don't believe. And so no, you couldn't really commit a skeptic. They're not divorced from reality. Ironically, the people who would fit the bill for having a schizoid break from reality would be the mainstream media believers who have mistaken the screen for reality. But the world as it is dominated by fake and the metaverse, and they get a pass because this is it's the majority. It's like that John Carpenter movie In the Mouth of Madness where everybody goes mad. So it's like the new normal. The new normal is essentially a schizoid break from reality, and they affected this through the use of PSI-war, mind war, chronic cognitive dissonance that's entirely inescapable. Nobody is unprogrammed. You've got the programmed and the few of us who are deprogrammed. There's no middle ground. There is the programmed, the deprogrammed, and the programmers. And many of the programmers are likely largely programmed because everything from that side would be on a need to know basis. That's how the lie world order power structure exists, and where insiders were privy to information that we're not supposed to have. It's not about knowing what's fake, it's about knowing how to tell real from fake. You know, like in They Live, another John Carpenter, when you put on the lenses, you can see, and when you can see, they can see that you can see, and they tell each other, we have one who can see. We are seers here. All right, catching up on comments. Violet says the pink skies we were just talking about, how a EMP pink is the highest electromagnetic level / Godzilla. It's how you would see the sky light a space nuke. Yeah, that's got to be a connection. So another thing, I had made the connection between Babylon and the Beast, Barbie and the nuke, Barbie and Godzilla. And Godzilla actually passed Oppenheimer. But these are connections that were already being made. They're projected to us, and I'm just describing them. Well, the connection between Babylon and the Beast and the color pink is what I was really solidifying. I didn't know, because I haven't even seen this yet, but the new Godzilla movie, he turns pink. So there is a connection. And the connection is also related to King Charles's pink painting, that atrocious painting. Now, that pink is the real meaning of it, I think. Whatever we're seeing, it's just so consistent. Okay, continuing. Owl says, hey Tim, have you seen the white horse that shows clearly in the smoke one of those dollhouses? I have not, but it's probably intentional. Very apocalyptic white horse. And we often refer to King Kill 33, James Shelby Downard, and his breakdown of the meta script behind the JFK assassination. Well, interestingly, he has a lot to say about the atom bomb and the Trinity site, which is actually connected to it. So I'll have to do a deep dive into James Downard's work again and his description of the nuke. But his whole premise is that these rituals, the killing of the king, the splitting of the atom, and a future event that he didn't know what it was going to be, I think it might have been 9/11, he had described that there were these three events that would give the cryptopsy total control over the dreaming mind of the masses. Subconscious control. And I would say mission accomplished. Conscious Daughter says, have you ever wondered why they had so many mental hospitals built in America 150 years ago? They looked like castles. The capacity exceeded the population. It made no sense. Yes. Yes. And I've looked into, there's this museum of psychiatry in Los Angeles that I think Scientology's offshoot group, the CCHR, the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, put together. And it just shows the torture chambers that essentially is that what you describe them. These asylums had these torture chambers or these various things that they would put patients through in an attempt to shake them out of it. Just really inhumane. Lobotomies, lobotomy chairs. I mean, that's just sick. Nowadays, they affect lobotomies chemically. Soon it'll be digital. All right, let's continue. Okay, let's see. We're looking at some comments underneath the video where Joe Rogan auto-hoaxes the nuke. At first I thought it was progress, but then someone remarked that this might be some preemptive damage control. So those of us who are going to be highly critical of Christopher Nolan's magnum opus aren't taken seriously. G-Dub says, quote, man no can make fire that big, only gods. What happened to Picture Maker? This not real. Joe Rogan. So G-Dub is quoting Joe Rogan as a caveman who just doesn't believe. Because you'd have to be a caveman to not believe that. Why is this a conspiracy theory even? Fascinating. Look at these people in love with this stuff. They're in love with their destroyers. They're totally subjugated. They're like ducking and covering, genuflecting before their fake war god. Still waiting for Joe to have a flat earther on and be overwhelmed by the terrific points they make, says Eric the Red. Yep, he's getting dangerously close to flat earth now. The point of it is, the flat earth question is simply, if you can't trust the authorities on these issues, and you know that this whole mass media operation is serving the power elite, then why are you going to trust them here? They lie about the news, therefore history is a lie in progress. Every religion is based on lies. It's lies everywhere, but the one place we can trust them is cartography. They would never lie about the maps. They'll lie about everything else, but not the maps. No, that's just honest. No, come on. The most valuable thing in the world is real estate. It's like they have more incentive to lie about that than anything else. So, no, I'm pretty sure the case can be made that the globe model is built on greed. It's built on creating scarcity, quarantining those not in the know. We're probably surrounded by people way more advanced than us who probably hate us. The Antarcticans. Okay, continuing through your comments. Iranian president is confirmed dead, says Travis Cloud. I think they shot down his helicopter. Okay, let's see here. Yep, well, feared dead. Who would benefit? He's presumed dead, no sign of life, Daily Mail. Okay, breaking. Iran president has died after crash. This is just confirmed. Fake until proven real. Now, this is, in my view, a psyop. It's the starting point for something. And before I get into the story, I'm going to dig into it. We'll talk about it later in detail, I'm sure. But none of the people who are always offering prophecies about Taylor Swift and Super Bowls and eclipses predicted this. Nobody with 50 gematria calculators in the pocket said, on 5/19/2024, the president of Iran is going to go down and then the storm will begin. Nobody predicted this. Where's all these prophets on X? All right, continuing through your comments. Iranian president and foreign minister. Okay. So this should be interesting. We'll see where that goes. Conscious Daughter says Joe did have a flat earther on his podcast. Did he? I remember he was very dismissive of it. I mean, no, he was very dismissive of it. However, maybe it was Eddie Bravo that was always prodding him. But before the topic even blew up, he's one of the ones who said, oh, if you look into flat earth, the next thing you know, it's Hail Hitler. And I was like, how do you arrive at that? And weirdly, he was right. It actually kind of does funnel into the same areas. They have a photo of him on the helicopter. Okay, well, anyway, they staged it. It's fake. Whatever. Fake until proven real, but it's going into the history books as real. Owl says, many people only know about Flat Earth because Eddie Bravo pushed the word on Rogan. That's likely true. Going back and thinking about it, I think it was evident it was kind of breaking out of the YouTube echo chambers when the billboards started rolling out and they started organizing on the streets and creating conferences. Putting the messaging on rockets and hijacking news cycles, dominating headlines on major social media platforms, flooding the world with the meme, and they really did have to push back on it. He didn't do a lot to platform it. Me and My Drone says he's hanging out with Kobe smoking a blunt. See, this is another one, Kobe Bryant's fake death. You can find many examples. There's a commercial with Kanye West at the time where he gets in a helicopter and Kobe throws a basketball at it and blows it up. And then Kobe's in a helicopter on Legends of Chamberlain Heights, a cartoon, crashes and blows up. And I think on his last game they gave away these toys where he's on a helicopter. But this could be a starting gun. Like Kobe's crash seemed to kick off the events of 2020. All right, continuing through your comments. Conscious Daughter says Eddie and him also talked about the Vatican. Eddie Bravo's got a show on Rofkin, and he had Alex Jones on, and they talked about how Alex Jones knows who Q is, and he reiterated it several times, but Eddie stopped him from spilling the beans. Like, these guys know, and they're hiding it for some reason. And I also think that a lot of these comedian conspiracy theorists are just running limited hangout operations, and they all have the same MO. Like, at the same time, they're all pushing the same things, the same current things, the same memes. Like, I don't fall into the trap of saying everybody's controlled opposition. However, you can be in a controlled opposition position by the various guardrails you adhere to and defend. That's why it's important not to have any leaders that you follow and trust when it comes to media. You have to be the final arbiter of what you believe. You have to be the final authority over your own mind, your own mind's gatekeeper. Okay, let's continue. This is where it's at. It says the Diddy video is suspect to me. Oh, the one from 2016? Well, he already went to therapy, so that's a non-issue. A lot of people think, though, it's going to be the next Epstein story. It sounds like the Epstein story in that it could be a big nothing burger. It's very salacious. It involves a lot of people. And it's just like 2016 all over again. But now it's P. Diddy instead of Epstein. Skyfish says, have you gone over the Iranian president crash? Sorry if you did. I've been waiting for confirmation, and we just got confirmation that he's confirmed dead. Now, what that means, I'm not quite sure. Who are they going to blame? Are they going to nuke Israel tomorrow? We'll see. Helicopter carrying Iran president crashes in foggy mountainous region. Frantic rescue mission launched, feared dead. Raises denial and hatred for Jews. See, they bring that up. It's a plot twist. Nothing more. P. Diddy admits that he kicked the woman and he's sorry. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, that's like the least of the things that he's been accused of. Like, he apologized for that, but did he apologize for human trafficking or pimping out his girlfriends against their will? I mean, there's a lot of things that he should probably be apologizing for. Or is he just going to apologize piecemeal as everything leaks? Wormy says Epstein Island ran out of steam. Yeah, maybe they just milked that story to death and they had to move on to the next thing. Like, nobody cares about it anymore. And does anybody? It was a huge nothing burger. A Newful says, so what I'm getting at is the simulated nuke in Seattle, Washington on June 11th will be a pink sky. Yes. Yes. The EMP. And another connection here. So the Godzilla versus King Kong, pink sky, or pink Godzilla. But it's the new empire. And I think this connects with Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. Frozen Empire starts with EMP. New Empire begins with an EMP. So I think that these both reference how the EMP will begin the new empire during a nuclear winter. Frozen Empire. This also connects with Westworld and Westeros burning, with the red dragons burning Westeros, and then winter is coming. Winter finally arrives, so it's this like long 1,000-year winter, a nuclear winter, and the snow's coming down along with the ashes of burning Westeros, which I believe is the West. And the dragons could be China. Could be a mix. You know, who's going to do it? I think it's going to be blamed on domestic violent extremists who got the nukes by working with Russia, and they met them on Telegram. Smarty Pants says, how are the people in Seattle going to be fooled? You know, that's an interesting question. I have a few ideas about this. It may not be in Seattle. It could be nearby. It could be King County. It could be underwater. The EMP blast will likely be high altitude, stratospheric even. The higher it is, the wider the range they can black out. Now, as far as faking it, it could be pyrotechnics. It could be explosions. It could be controlled demolitions. Synchronized controlled demolitions in some kind of a movie set scenario. And I think this could be affected in a number of ways. And I've been thinking about this for some time. We've been trying to figure out how are they going to pull this off. And I think it was in 2019, there was this thing called the Century Project where they put $100 million into the Space Needle. I'm like, $100 million into the Space Needle? And the Space Needle is going to be ground zero for the next 9/11. That was our operating premise. And this is before 3/11 had the ground zero at Seattle. But I think, well, with that budget, what couldn't you do? And then a couple years ago, Jeff Bezos had, or not, it was, I think it was after he left, but Amazon had pulled 3,000 employees from downtown Seattle. They said it was because of a crime wave. And I'm like, okay, crime wave, they move all these people out of this area. And I'm thinking, maybe they're setting the stage for something. And then shortly after that, there were these simulations done in Seattle for what would happen if they were hit with a tsunami. And they projected that a 7.4 tsunami, or a 7.5 is what they said, a 7.5 tsunami would bring 42-foot waves into Seattle. So I'm thinking, okay, tsunami wave, crime wave, there was this reoccurring theme, like maybe they cleared the path for their simulated nuke. They have an unlimited budget for this. This is the psyop of the century that's coming. So I don't underestimate their special effects. They're going to probably try to go outside of our range of understanding. Remember, when 9/11 happened, none of us knew that they could superimpose a pre-filmed movie over the screen and convince people it's happening because it's a magic show. But as far as how they're going to pull this off, how are they going to convince people? Crisis actors, liars in place, controlled demolition, and a lot of media reinforcement, plus chaos, the blackout. I think they can do it. Upside Down Guy says, are EMPs real? They're fakeable, which is what matters. Lean Dion says, I think Kendrick slaying Drake the Dragon recent battles was symbolic of Palestine versus the colonizers. It also shadowed Diddler. Oh yes, P. Diddler. Okay, Kendrick slaying Drake. So this is interesting because we had Maxwell Azarello setting himself on fire on the anniversary of the Waco fire. And he set himself on fire because of a fascist coup he believed was coming, and he was against the monetary system. And then at the same time, you had the Copenhagen, it's the oldest stock exchange in Denmark. They're in Copenhagen, this big spire burns, and they call it the Dragon's Tail. So the Dragon's Tail is burning, and then you have this Burning Man from St. Augustine. St. Augustine was torched, burned by Sir Francis Drake. So Sir Francis Drake, Dragon's fire burns St. Augustine. The guy from St. Augustine burns as Copenhagen's Dragon's Tail burns. So I'm seeing these connections. And it goes a little deeper because you can connect the Copenhagen fire to the Notre Dame fire through the symbol of the bat and the Bataclan. We kind of talked about this the other day, but there's this thread that goes through these. And so the dragon thing is interesting here. Also, Sir Francis Drake's death anniversary coincides with the Challenger explosion, an immolation, and Apollo 1, an immolation. So there's the dragon fire. And one more point, because we talked about Kobe Bryant. In 2020, before Kobe Bryant blew up, we were watching saying that there's going to be a fiery sacrifice in the sky the same week as the Challenger explosion. We were just kind of making prediction based on patterns. And interestingly, Elon Musk had his Falcon 9 rocket with an effigy inside of it sacrificed, in his word, to Dragon's fire. They had an explosion that they did to test their abort system. Reoccurring theme here, Dragon's fire. One other thing, the Palestine, Ohio train derailment that we were analyzing, hyper-analyzing last year. Palestine, Ohio. Well, I think Ohio has the motto of the heart of it all. So I took this to mean that this could be referencing, Palestine, Ohio, heart of it all, Israel, Gaza. And the thing about it is the Palestine, Ohio derailment had this toxic airborne event. It looked like a mushroom cloud. If you remember that, I'll put it up on the screen. So the Palestine, Ohio mushroom cloud was foreshadowed in the Netflix movie White Noise. And extras from White Noise were evacuated from East Palestine in real life. So you have this mix of extras in a movie about the thing now actually being more or less like crisis actors in the world stage recreation of it. But I think this is foreshadowing what may be happening in the Middle East. But look at that mushroom cloud. So we've been getting conditioned for this. All right, I'm catching up on your comments. Conscious Daughter says, all this Hollywood BS is all a distraction. Yeah, I would even say that Hollywood is where we get our pageantry. The New World Order religion has its pageantry, and it's Hollywood Babylon. Kenneth Anger's book came out as Hollywood, starring Margot Robbie. Again, Hollywood Babylon, Margot Robbie. Again, she's associated with the Barbie movie. These connections go deep, and this is old, but from the very beginning of Hollywood, it was always consciously designed to be the pageantry for their occult religion. And the dominant religion of the world today, you call it scientism, but I'm starting to lean towards NASAtology because it's a space religion like Scientology. NASAtology has better special effects, Scientology has better actors. That's why I'm looking forward to Tom Cruise going to the space station, because then you have a mix of the two. And that's a very significant psyop to come. And there are predictions from South Park and a few other places where Tom Cruise, in my opinion, might be Major Tom from Space Oddity by David Bowie. Ground Control to Major Tom. I think it's Major Tom Cruise, and I think he's going to die in space. Kind of a tangent there. But we're talking about psyops in general and space psyops. Smarty Pants says Tim got battle rapper reasoning skills. Conscious Daughter says Drake and Kendrick are both industry plants. Okay, Kendrick Lamar got an award for that Heart Part 5, and he did this performance as Christ, in white with a crown of thorns. This black Christ, and he's surrounded by the bloody red female dancers. So it's all this bloody performance, but the women in red, he's in white. That is the same ritual we saw in the Super Bowl with Rihanna, with her pregnant belly as the goddess, surrounded by male dancers in white. And this was repeated with Usher in white and Alicia Keys in red. And the white and red gives you pink. Look, this is all Mystery Babylon in our face. Someone says the phones aren't working. Let me go ahead and answer. Actually, they are working. I just didn't monitor it. I'm going to answer the phone. We have a couple callers on hold. Hey, what's up, caller? Can you hear me okay?
It's me, dude.
Hey, what's up? This is...
No, I was trying to call you earlier just to, because the phones weren't working, but...
Okay, cool. I'm glad you...
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little staticky, but we'll give it a moment. It should clear up. So we're looking at...
Yeah, no, I was just calling whatever you want to talk about. Yeah.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, we were talking about the PSYOP in Palestine, of course, the toxic airborne event, a few other things. But we're getting close to 6/11. We're getting close to Seattle. And I wanted to get into the Space Needle thing as well. I think you heard me mention Dr. Evil. Dr. Evil's Space Needle headquarters. Austin Powers, of course. But that's another example of the same.
Yeah, I've talked about that many times on my channel, and yeah, Dr. Evils is Elvis, and he also had a mini me because it's always the twin connection, and also he besides being in the Space Needle, his headquarters, he also had the headquarters in the volcano, I think too. So you have another connection to some other possible incidences over there. But and then they also had a needle connection because he lost his mojo and it was like hidden in a needle or something. So there's always some kind of needle connection with Elvis and Trump.
I didn't catch any of that's actually the twin thing. I didn't catch that until you just brought it up. Now, do you have any theory as to how they will fake the nuke, or do you think they're really going to do something and annihilate people?
Well, I do believe if they set off explosions, they're going to annihilate people. There's no doubt about that. The only question is it a nuke? And I don't believe in nukes, but they could have been planting these explosives for, right in plain sight, right in front of us, throughout, under the city, because they have underground tunnels and underground city, don't they, over there in Seattle?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that is right. And so like, yeah, I'm thinking that it's mostly going to be from the water, which would be easier to fake, underwater or high up in the air, high altitude, but the least amount of physical damage necessary on the ground, as far as it wouldn't have to like literally annihilate half of Seattle. But I don't know how extensive it can be. The idea of, I guess, this face of Elvis looking west, like, I don't know. Is it on a fault line? Is there something else they can do?
That's what I'm saying. They could have been planting explosives all down wherever the hell the fault lines are, even underneath the water. Who knows what kind of technology these people have? But I don't believe in the nuke theory because they need lots of explosives. They can't. I don't believe that you can get one little thing, one little bomb to blow up, a whole state or something, or city.
Right. Yeah, and one more thing too, like when it comes to 9/11, I look at that as, when I see it, it looks like a controlled demolition, but all that smoke, it looks like smog. And they can create huge volumes of smog using smog generators. The military has access to it, and it's for cover. It's so you can block drones, laser sites, you can move personnel and equipment, and so it's just like a military operation. So like the sky's the limit. They have all the technology, they have all the fakery. I think they could. I think they can pull this off. It's like David Copperfield.
Yeah, and don't forget what they did in Beirut, because I'm born in Beirut, and what they did in Beirut, Lebanon, on August 4th was a test run of how much explosives, just to see what it would look like, the amount of explosives they used near the water. And do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
That was a test run.
Well, what that showed is they can pull it off. They can pull off a convincing. I mean, that had people wondering, what is that exactly? And the timing of it, 8/4, that was just too much. And I remember that was also like the 50th anniversary or 50 something anniversary. Let me check. But anyway, yeah, I think you're right about that. And I think it's going to be mostly water based. But anyway, 6/11 is the date that we're looking at here. I'm not looking at this like prophecy or anything, but I'm just looking at this thing as this is a coherent story that, like 9/11, if we could go back in time with the same methodology, we would have predicted it, in my opinion. We all but predicted 3/11.
Yeah, and about this president thing, by the way, you need to watch my last video, bro, because I said that some presidential event would happen yesterday. I predicted it like a couple days
right.
ago.
Okay, I'm glad you called. So the president of Iran crashing and dying right now, and then we had that other one who was shot at. So they've been hyping up this reoccurring theme, and you're right. You mentioned a presidential event, and now we have a president dead here on 5/19. That's actually a pretty big plot twist.
Yeah, and it had a connection to the date I was talking about in the video. Besides talking about it would happen on 5/19, I was also talking about the 12/14, and that's when that president is born, on 12/14. So that's what I'm saying. In the video, I explain it, but I'm not going to go through it
Okay,
here.
I'll check the video out.
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
Up to something.
Because you got me looking at birth dates. There's this CNN, like this CNN correspondent. Her name is, I think it's Alice Stewartson, I believe. I'll see if I get her name. The commentator, Alice Stewart. So I'm looking at the story, and the headlines are, Jim Acosta says, "I'm heartbroken." Now, people die. Maybe she's dead. but anything on the news looks fishy to me now. So I'm looking at this thing. She's 58, and I haven't looked too deep into the numbers, but I look first at her birth date because a lot of the anti-pokies are saying that she died from that. And her birth date happens to be March 11th, 311. So I'm like, okay, there might be a deeper messaging to this story here, but yeah, birth dates are always a tell.
Yeah, definitely. Because, well, I mean, that's because that is the most important thing, your birth and your death date, you know.
Yeah.
But
Precisely.
anyway.
Well, anyway, I'm going to watch that video and I'll comment on it tomorrow because this is a very significant development. We have to wait till tomorrow to really get the full ramifications. There's no way a piece moves like this without repercussions. And one more thing, I don't know if you caught this,
Yeah,
but
we'll see. Go ahead.
did you see Trump leaning over, claiming that the podium was kind of like about to break or about to fall, where he's leaning over, and he made some joke about how things are falling apart, the country's leaning too far left. Now, anyway, if you look at the picture, the snapshot from the Daily Beast, and I have it on the screen right now, it quite literally looks like blood coming out of his head, like he just got shot. And then on the podium in front of him, you have Abraham Lincoln, and I think it's JFK. So you have a couple, oh, no, Lincoln and Reagan, two individuals who have been, shot. So what do you think of that?
Oh, wow, yeah, I do see it. I see what you're talking about, the blood, the red behind his head, right?
Yeah, and this was Daily Beasts. Like this is the image that went out for this particular event. And I'm like, well, that's very conspicuous. That looks like blood pouring out of his head. And then you got Lincoln and Reagan right there on the podium.
Well, Obama, the first time he ever made a speech for Biden, coming out for Biden, behind Obama, he was in front of the Lincoln, some building that said Lincoln behind him. The first time Obama came out, what was that date, man? I just can't remember the date he came out.
Now, see, this is interesting.
That was significant too.
I'll look at that one because this Lincoln thing has been like a reoccurring theme. For example, it was on the equinox. You had this sniper in Prague on a balcony. See the sniper story, and they said there was blood on these steps. And then the same day at the Lincoln Memorial, some pro-Palestine protesters dumped blood all over the iconic marble steps in front of the Lincoln Memorial. So the same headlines: blood on the steps, sniper, Lincoln, reoccurring theme. And at the same time, Biden just pulled down the Civil War Reconciliation Monument. So yeah, Lincoln is very closely associated with this psyop. They keep on throwing him in there.
Anyway, bro, I don't want to hog up the thing. I'm just going to say bye to everybody. But listen, if anyone wants to come to my channel, check out my videos and stuff, you can do that. But look, just real quick, I think maybe somebody else was trying to call you. That's why I want to get off the phone. That way they can try and call in. But anyway, I appreciate you taking the call. Anyway, I'll talk to you next live stream.
Thanks for the info, and I'm glad you called about the president of Iran, and I'll check out your latest video.
All right, take care.
All right, have a great night. All right, so if you want to try to call back, we had another caller. Don't have a lot of time now, but I'm glad we got that call in because this is a major plot development, and if someone has a link to his last video, if you want to share it, I'll be watching that this evening because this is a big development. We're also at the end of May. End of the month is JFK's birthday, and the JFK cult is going to be gathered at the site of the JFK assassination. Anyway, it's a new phone system. Okay, here we go. Looks like we got somebody here. We have a couple of minutes left. Hey, what's up, caller?
Hello?
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me okay? It's a little staticky. That's not on my end, as far as I know. It must be Blog Talk Radio.
What about now?
No, it sounds fine. It was crackly on
You
the
hear
last.
me?
Yes, it was crackly on the last caller as well.
Yeah, I was just trying a new number, bro. I was just trying to try the new number. Mic check.
New number. This is the one forever, and this number is Blog Talk Radio, which means caller Q. And you can actually listen on Blog Talk Radio. It's a whole other website, but I'm just using their phone system. But if people want to subscribe there, or if you do subscribe there, I believe you can just listen there alone, and you can call in and listen on your phone. The lines are crackling. I don't know what it is. It's probably EMP. Are the skies glowing pink above us?
No, I'm on the toilet. Is the water running?
Okay, cool enough. Okay, well, any thoughts on this Donald Trump thing? Here he is at the wobbly podium. So there's like this joke he makes about the wobbly podium. Did you see the picture where it looks like he just got blasted? I mean that's how else could you describe that?
I didn't see that yet. Well, you know what's funny is I went to I went to my union meeting today, and they wanted us to vote on who we think they should endorse, which I don't know if it's ever even happened. I think this might be the first time, maybe the second time, but it doesn't happen. They just kind of like internationally, they just pick who they endorse. Okay, and I went today just because I went to the meeting, not because of the vote. And then after the meeting, they had pizza and a beer, and I was like, oh, that's another plus. But I didn't vote. For what? Oh, my parents, oh, you gotta vote. Like, you gotta hold your nose and vote. Like, for what, dude? Like, my vote is gonna count? Like, both these dudes are clowns. What, one clown more than the other? I mean, I don't know, like, do we trust either one of them? Well, their policies are different. Like, do you trust either one of them?
It really depends on your relationship with Big Brother. You know, how do you view it? Do you embrace big government or do you fear it? And that's the primary distinction. And it's by design. I'm an outsider. I'm ivory tower inactivist, off-world stager. I'm not an NPC, but I'm not engaged in their psywar. I've embraced inactivism. So it's like for me it's not even a question that I would ask. I'm like an anthropologist and I'm watching these, this tribal warfare, but like no, I'm not taking sides.
Exactly. I agree with you. I stand in the shadows and observe their protocol.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't trust anybody whose judgment is so impaired that they believe in moon landings and space travel. And unfortunately, that's both contestants here.
And like, dude, so okay, that's another thing. Like, all right, I talk a lot of shit or whatever, right? But and a lot of the red herrings are entertaining. But there is kinetic action going on geopolitically. Right, left, whatever, like, eventually it affects people. Eventually it may affect people that it usually doesn't affect.
I've heard this. I've heard it's going to go kinetic. You call it all fake. It's going to get real. It's never going to get real. The predictive...
All right, well, dude, go over to those countries and tell me what your report is.
You go over there and tell me it's real. Because I'm not even accepting that what we're shown is anything more than...
So you're saying it's not real?
How would you know it's real? Do you accept the authority of the screen? Do you accept the media at face value? Because I don't have enough information, so I suspend judgment until I have enough information. And what I've seen has been fake.
I saw rubber. Fair enough.
Look, if I see a bunch of fake dead kids lined up like sardines, I'm sorry, but none of it's real.
Fair enough, dude. It isn't real, dude. Fair enough, bro.
Well, I mean, it's
not real. Nukes aren't real.
Nukes aren't real.
Take a frag grenade, pull the pin, and hold it. And tell me it's not real.
Well, that's different. Grenades are real, but nukes are fake. These things are scales of magnitude.
Well, come on,
difference.
Dude.
Nukes are fake. That's good news.
Okay, fair enough, dude. Okay, it's not real.
There's a point where real becomes fake, and it's always outside of our reach, outside of our immediate ability to test and fact check. And that's the boundary. That's the true edge of the world that we have to discern.
Was World War II real, dude?
Well, okay. Were the inflatable tanks used in World War II real? Were the decoy operations real?
You want to split hairs?
Look, there were 88 drills
You
on
want to split
9/11.
hairs?
There were 3,000 off-duty cops doing mass casualty acting
So
gigs that day.
what happened to okay, I'm glad you brought up 9/11.
Well, we
What
don't look.
happened to the
I
Twin
actually I
Towers?
have to go.
Did they
I'm actually
collapse? So they were never there then,
no,
right?
no, nobody would say that, and that's a gross mischaracterization of my position. The towers were real, and they were demolished in a controlled demolition. No direct energy weapons, no
Okay,
airplanes.
we agree upon that. We agree upon that, dude. Like, I think everybody here knows that something was up. So it happened.
No, it didn't happen.
Shit happened.
It didn't happen. It was a movie. The fact that the buildings went
So it
down
didn't.
the buildings were empty. So it doesn't. It was a psyop, is what I'm saying. It was a movie. It didn't happen.
Wait, but they came down, though.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
They did.
Fake dead kids' lives don't
doesn't
matter.
matter. Wait, it
Fake
doesn't
look.
matter?
These are props. Like the.
It doesn't matter that those two buildings fell to the ground?
It doesn't matter because it was a movie. It wasn't like somebody
All right.
knocked it. No, what? Here's the point.
Okay.
It wasn't like somebody knocked him down. It wasn't like, oh, somebody did it. We got to figure out who did it. A crime was committed.
I didn't say that.
No, what I'm saying
dude.
is a crime was
I
not.
said that,
A crime
did
was
it
not
happen?
committed. A crime was not committed. A terrorist act was not committed. So did the buildings fall?
I didn't say that. Dude.
No, what I'm saying is the buildings
say that,
falling
bro.
is immaterial. It doesn't mean anything. It's not like something happened. No, it didn't happen.
Okay, it doesn't mean anything.
It wouldn't mean anything
Fair
because
enough. Doesn't
no,
mean anything.
this point matters
It
though.
didn't. It
This
didn't
point
have
matters
any,
because
it
a lot of
didn't
people
have
say
any influence
a lot of
on
people say,
history.
well, it does. But what I'm saying is, if you buy the idea that this
Oh,
was
it does. Wait. So it does?
wait, you keep cutting me off. Listen.
It does have influence on history.
Okay, listen. These events guide our history.
You know what I'm saying, dude. You know what I'm saying, bro.
I think you're kind of getting into the weeds here. You see, we both agree something happened, but we're fighting over the description of it. Not you and me, but in general. The media is saying this was a terror attack. Alt media says it was a conspiracy. I'm saying it didn't happen. And this distinction matters because if it didn't happen, there's no scapegoats. Every scapegoat is just a red herring. If it didn't happen, then all the neo-Nazis can't say, oh, it was the Jews, because it didn't happen. The New Agers can't say it was the reptilian skull and bonesmen, because it didn't happen. Who did 9/11? Well, Stanley Kubrick. So I'm looking at this from a completely different perspective. So I don't care about the interpretation as viewed by the mainstream. Like, I don't take that seriously. You're like, well, stuff's going kinetic, stuff's going real. Prove it. You can't say, well, I saw it on TV and think that has any weight with me. Not when I've looked at TV and I see a bunch of fake dead people consistently. And they've been lying this entire time. History is a lie. They've been lying since the nuke. Suddenly they got real in 2024. It doesn't work that way. They lost credibility. The mass media has never provided adequate burden of proof, so it's not on me to be a believer. I'm strictly a non-believer in anything that doesn't have any facts attendant with it. And when it's foggy, it's unclear, but what we can discern is fakery, I just throw it all out. Like, look, you lied to me once, I'm not going to trust you again. You lied about this, this, and this, then the rest of it needs a bigger burden of proof to compensate for the lies. But the word kinetic, I hear that used a lot. They're like, oh, you're calling things fake, but what about when it gets real? It's never going to get real. This is as real as it's going to get. They already won. You've already been conquered. The fact that you believe in this stuff means you've been conquered. You're ready to run for the bunkers. You're ready to run and duck and cover. You've been conquered. Every time you duck and cover, you're kneeling before Big Brother's big giant missile. You're kneeling before the obelisk. You're kneeling before their god. This is where it's at. Says, I'm calling cap on influencers, history, science, and the news, rap music, etc. It's all full of lies. Violet Penguin says, bad logic. Grenades are real, so nukes are real. Well, his argument was that I'm a reality denialist, which is the opposite of the truth. I would say he is. If you're giving the mass media benefit of the doubt, then your reality has been compromised, and you're not in a position to debate what is and what isn't real because you're now a believer. Believers are lost in a world of darkness, a wilderness of darkness. The believers don't have light. They exist in the dark. They're hoodwinked by the system. The instant you become a skeptic and you disbelieve, then you begin to get a grasp on what reality is. So I'm not a reality denialist. I'm just not a reality augmenter. There are things I don't believe, but I don't disbelieve things that exist. In fact, I would even argue that we are the only true objectivists in the world today. Smarty Pants says that's their game now. Everybody kneel. Absolutely. And they are. Ofuika says, Tim, are you a Jew? Look, people who are operating at that level of like, is your blood pure? These blood purists, like, I don't respect where you're coming from. Like, I just ban people like that. You're like, oh, is your blood pure? Like this Jew, Christian, good, evil, QAnon crap, I don't fall for it. And if someone's asking, are you a Jew? It's like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't care about your opinions from there on out. Because now you're like, okay, so you're thinking in terms of collective groups. So like collective blame, like Jews killed Jesus. The same people who say that don't want to accept white guilt. Well, whites did Jim Crow and black codes and slavery. So if you're going to say that you're going to blame Jews for killing your fake, character, then you should accept the blame for what happened to real people that we can actually identify. Anyway, I do not have any respect for racists, xenophobes, or any other mind-controlled, whatever you want to call them, blood purists. Look, and the anti-V is controlled opposition. Anybody doing this blood purity thing is controlled opposition. And I thought that was just BitChute. I guess it's on YouTube too. BitChute is a bunch of these people, and they're like falling for a very classic psychological operation. Look, I don't care about white genocide. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in replacement theory. I could care less about your plight. And it's kind of funny, not funny, but there's this parallel between critical race theory and what I call critical Jew theory. And these exist on the opposite sides of the political horseshoe. And like anything else, if it's a bifurcated psyop, if it's split down the middle, choose your own adventure, I choose to believe this is the bad guy and we're going to believe this guy's the bad guy, and there's no conflict, then it's fake. Anyway, I'm going to have to take off now. I'm running a little bit late. We'll probably have more time tomorrow. I'm going to send out live stream notifications as usual, so subscribe. And also, I'm going to send out archives. I haven't had time to get those today. I'll try to get back to the office if I can. I have another gig. But I'm going to try to get a link out to you of JL's last video so we can catch up with him on his more or less prediction about something big happening to a president. More predictive programming. Travis Cloud says, announcing you're on the commode while calling is just messy. Right. Well, look, I don't have time to debate, but we have a methodology here. If you have any questions, read Autohoaxology 101. And I will debate these things in person. I want to debate in person with true believers in all the mainstream lies. And we'll get to it soon. Anyway, we covered a lot of stuff. Joe Rogan auto-hoaxing the nuke. Did not expect that. We'll be back tomorrow, likely earlier.